Well, this evening we're gonna go back and do a little more Star Trek, as I talked about in the Romulan Warbird video. In fact, it's still sitting right there from where I left. But this review will encompass the Polar Lights Constitution class USS Enterprise set. Consequently, you do get 5 different choices of ships that were in the series, and the Defiant, the Constellation, the Exeter, and I can't remember the other one that you can also do, but this one I decided to do the Defiant NCC-1764 from the Tholian Web. The other nice thing about this kit is you have the choice of swap-in parts that they give you for 3 distinct different models, and that is you can get the first pilot version with Jeffrey Hunter, which has a little different nacelles on the front end as well as the back. The decals are a different scheme somewhat. The bridge is different. The bridge is actually this is the bridge for that version, but the Kirk version is much lower silhouetted and just looks different. They also give you one for the second pilot version with Kirk, and then the actual TV series version. And the biggest notable difference people will talk about is that the nacelles, at the front of the nacelles, there's a little crown piece, and that is the main difference in between the studio production version and the pilot version. So, although I think in a few different episodes they use both for some of the scenes, but nevertheless, this is the version that I went with, and as just for a little bit more challenge, that's why I did the Defiant. But overall thoughts on the model, it's not too difficult to build, although there are some challenging parts to it, and that number one being on all Star Trek Enterprise models, the nacelles being attached to the secondary hull section are always a challenge in one way or another. I've never seen one company ever get it totally right on this model. This one was better than most, but not better than all, in that it actually is an arm which sits at a 60-degree angle that fits up into the nacelle, and you got one shot at it, or otherwise they'll be crooked. So someone with limited experience might want to play around with that a little more, or otherwise you're going to get crooked nacelles. But whatever, it's not a huge deal. Other things that were not perfect about it is the decals themselves are very big and large. They were cut, so when you pull them off the sheet, after you got them wet, sometimes they came apart and you had to do some quick moving, especially on these long ones here, because you have to piecemeal the 1764 out, but these long red strips actually came apart in a few places just because a machine roller must have clipped them or something, so when they came off of the mold or off of the sheet, they just came in pieces. So another note, something I bonered up big time, and it's a noob mistake, and I'm going to admit it just to warn other people who do watch this, is that when you're working with both acrylics and lacquers, they don't they mix when done in the proper sequence and order, but they do not mix well when you get them in the wrong order, and that is that you lacquer and then acrylic and then lacquer again, and that has the unfortunate effect of getting spider webs on the places that you lacquer over, especially in the decals. They crack and look funny, and there's not a whole lot you can do to get rid of it at that point other than stripping and repainting and redecaling, which this thing was a $10 buy off the shelf, and it was not worth investing that type of time. So it wasn't that bad anyway, but nevertheless it is there. But overall, this is a pretty good example. It's a nice little space saver. I mean, for scale, there's my hand. Next to the Romulan Warbird, which is much larger, even than this guy here. So, but it has a halfway decent stand, and it's got, as I said, it's got lots of extra parts and decals, so it's actually a pretty nice kit for the money, if you can get over the nacelles part. So, with that being said, I would recommend this to any moderate skill level person who's interested in these. I haven't done the rest of them. I know there's some snap-together kits that Polar Lights has put out, as well as Ertl's put some more out in the past half a year since the new movie came out. So that being said, there's a lot more Star Trek kits on the market these days, and this is the only one that I have of those series, so hopefully I'll be picking more of those up and rifling through them. What I'm not looking forward to is if the other ones have decals just like this one does, because this was, if you like doing decals, I would suggest these to anybody, because the challenge was not so much in the build, but in the decals. I mean, I must have spent double the amount of time setting the decals on this thing as I did actually painting it and refining it. And with that being said, enough is enough. I mean, I've put, oh God, tons of coats of lacquer on it. It's not getting any shinier or any clearer. So we're gonna kind of pack this one up and put her in the cabinet. So with that, hope you like Polar Lights, because these guys are what produce Star Trek models other than Ertl out there right now. So have at it, and thanks for watching.